Hello, denizens of the universe. I'm the Romance Scrooge, and joining me today is.
SR Nobody.
We're going to be discussing a couple of interesting theories about Starr versus the forces of evil.
Right, so where would be a good place to start?
The talking points is written out Mewberty. Number 2 is what if Starr is actually a monster? Number 3, I'm kind of paraphrasing overall here. What if monsters originally created the wand or wielded magic and humans appropriated both of these? I don't think that's the exact idea, but I was just paraphrasing there. The fourth one, what relevance does the card suit hold? Spade, heart, club, diamonds. In regards to Starr, St. Olga's headmistress, Toffee, or others. And the fifth one, what's up with the symbols on the floor in the main antechamber of St. Olga's?
Right.
Honestly, I've been. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to state that after rewatching all of season one yesterday, which didn't really take that long it didn't take as long as I thought it would. Um, Currently, as it stands, Star versus the Forces of Evil isn't as lore heavy as other shows like Gravity Falls and Steven Universe. However, towards the end of season one, it started to become that. So hopefully, we get more in season two. So any theories that I come up with or discuss might seem a bit graspy at straws territory.
That's perfectly fine. Any kind of theory, any kind of theory you can come up with is kind of grasping at straws at the moment.
True, and I've been going through all my books on symbols and everything else to try and make sense of anything.
I'm especially fascinated by the idea of Star possibly being a monster. When you were rewatching through season one, when did this idea crop up?
The idea actually popped up with Mewberty itself. Because after rewatching, pretty much every time it would have a setting in Muny, I always looked at the Mumans, and at the end of the Mewberty episode, Star said that she got her Mewberty wings. So I looked at every other character that was shown, and no other character seems to have any indication of any other extra trait like Mewberty wings, and that could basically be chalked up to, oh well, they don't all have it, or they get unique abilities, or uh, something along the lines of uh, it's probably unique to Star and her mother. But even looking at Moon, she doesn't have that either, and there was a clear backshot at the finale episode.
That's true. I was just rewatching through that. No wings. King Butterfly doesn't have wings either.
Right, and I'm thinking that Star being a monster could possibly be related to the wand in a sense, like all the wand bearers, since the wand seems to be passed uh, on Star's mom's side of the family, if we take the suits into account of that. In which case, I would have thought that even Moon would have had a like a wing or two or something that would have indicated that, unless it skips a generation.
That may very well be possible. Kind of be hard to extrapolate from that, though, since we're not sure what Star's grandmother looked like or One thing I'm really curious about is after rewatching St. Olga's headmistresses, it's implied that the headmistress may very well be royalty herself. Thus far, we've seen human royalty, and the biggest indicator seems to be some kind of suit on their cheeks. Moon has the diamond, Starr has the heart, and the headmistress has the club on her cheek.
Right, and River, which is the king, which I didn't know his name for the longest time, but then after rewatching the last episode, the queen calls him River. But River doesn't also have any of this, and there are being scenes as well with him shirtless, and there's no wings on him either. So the suits might be uh, passed down female-wise. Trying to find a good word for that, but uh, I don't know. So if anything, if we do see like past wand wielders, they'll probably all mostly be female.
Heck, at Independence Day, it showed that the first wand wielder was female.
Right.
Someone in the comments mentioned that they might just hide their wings. What if the wings do stay that pathetically small? They probably would be fairly easy to cover up in that respect.
Right. Although, looking at the back shot for Moon in the season 1 finale, the back of her dress kind of goes pretty much half of where Star's was. So unless the wings are a bit lower, which Star's looked like it was her around the shoulder blades.
Maybe they are a bit lower. If Mewberty is an individualized experience, maybe it results in some kind of weird trait or extra ability for each different person, or each different royal Muman that goes through it.
That is a possibility. Although they'll probably expand upon that if they do in season 2.
Definitely hope so. Not really much to go off of here so far, other than Star's experience. That's pretty much the only real frame of reference on screen.
That and the fact that Glossaric himself even mentioned the fact that Mewberty was a normal thing and probably normal for wand wielders. That actually could be possible, that Mewberty itself is a byproduct of being a wand wielder.
Huh. Actually, that'd make a lot of sense. Maybe it's connected to wand wielders in that every person who wields the wand has to go through it in order to get full access to the wand's gamut of powers. We're not sure just how powerful the wand is or how it connects with the person wielding it.
Other than the wand itself changing appearance based on the wielder.
Pretty much. I wonder what that'd mean if somebody else other than a human royal wielded the wand, because in another episode it did prove that anybody could wield the wand if they wanted to.
Right, Lobster Claws had it for a while, and it changed based on his mental state, like embracing the pure evil side, and it looked really awesome and evil. But then when he was conflicting it with his desire to be good, it looked more innocent and lobster-like. So, I don't know. Then again, there have been shown episodes where Marco held the wand and it didn't change. And then, and then whenever at the season 1 finale, when the queen got the wand to get it cleaned, It didn't change form or anything.
That's very true. Maybe the only way to get it to work is you have to be holding it with intent. Sort of, it depends on your mental state. Like if you're thinking, this is my wand, I'm going to use it, that's when it changes according to mood and otherwise.
There are many wands like it, but this is mine.
There may very well be restrictions as to who can use and wield the wand too. There is a bit of, I wonder if Marco had been intentionally trying to wield the wand, would he be able to use it? Can humans actually use a wand or use magic?
Well, I don't know. Well, there was in the Mewberty episode, Janna had Starr's book and was wanting to use its magic, even so far as to get Glossaric on her side with High School Pudding. So it might be possible. We'll have to see a bit more, which I don't know. I kind of hope we do see more of Janna and her interest in magic. I don't know why, but she just is a very interesting character to me.
She is incredibly interesting. She definitely has an eccentric side, definitely kind of an adventure spirit. She's odd. She's odd and stands out enough to the point that I wouldn't be surprised if she became a main character.
Right, and considering her interest in magic, I could see her as let's see, the closest comparison I can make is Dennis, which is the older brother of Juniper Lee and Ray Ray. He was very interested in magic and role playing, and because of his interest in that, he actually was very proficient in it to the point where even Monroe was impressed. And then in American Dragon Jake Long, Trixie was also interested, but not so much in itself, but mostly in healing aspect for Doctor Wise. So if they did make Janna main character and more interested in magic, she could possibly become proficient in a way of, like, say, being Star's go-to in case she can't get to the book.
That's highly possible.
Of course, all Janna would need is a whole bunch of pudding to get Glossaric to teach her.
True that. Someone brought up an interesting point about lobster claws in the comments. That as he used the wand more and more, there came a point where it seemed like he didn't have control over it.
Well, if you remember from the first episode, even Starr didn't have full control, and she nearly burned down the kingdom.
Oh yeah, true that. Yeah, that boils down to a matter of you get better with the wand as you practice with it. In regards to the wand, I kind of want to use this as a segue into the idea if monsters originally created magic. If monsters originally created magic and humans appropriated the wand, what if Mewberty was a result of them not being naturally simpatico with it?
Well, that could possibly trying to find the words. It could be possible because that is a very common theme in a lot of fantasy stories where the humans don't have magic, but the monsters do. But then the humans steal it. In a very kind of Promethean analogy. Binks, back off. So that could be something. And considering the fact that in Mutapendence Day, it was stated that the first Muman settlers came to that area and there were monsters there already.
True that. We have yet to see any other humans on screen naturally using magic or being able to use magic. And actually, Tommy kind of plays a role here. He knows quite a bit about how magic works, how to counteract it, how the wand works. He even knew that Star's mom taught her how to destroy the wand. Of course, part of this might come in him doing extensive and thorough research, but what if it also comes from he might have been in charge of developing this kind of magic, or his family had been involved in magic until humans stepped in and appropriated the wand? It might be a family tradition or something that comes naturally to monsters or is part of monster history.
Right. Toffee himself is kind of a interesting character who kind of hope we see more in season 2. And of course, and then looking like Toffee's first appearance is the fortune cookie episode, and looking at his expressions when he sees Starr and her usage of the wand, he was both curious and interested. And then subsequent viewings, he was doing research and even had a book detailing about magic and wands. So maybe the fact that the wand changes powers is why he didn't recognize it immediately, and he'd been looking for it this entire time.
Hmm. So the wand's transformative properties, then it changes with each wielder. This may be something entirely new to Toffee.
Either that or he knew, but he didn't know what it currently looked like.
Yeah, it would be pretty difficult to pin the wand down if it changes so drastically from person to person.
Yeah, because Moon's wand looked more like a royal scepter, while Star's looks like a chibified Sailor Moon slash card captor uh, kind of toy.
In regards to the possibility of Starr being a monster, what if there's kind of wonder if there might be some kind of glamour spell to where a monster could look like a human. Now, this is going to really go into murky territory here. But if that were the case, what if the first wand wielder was a monster herself and she was looking to take over or do something nefarious or something along those lines? Again, pretty murky territory here. Then she uses the glamour to make herself look like a Muman. And then this has just been a succession down the royal line. But where she actively knew she was a Muman, her descendants didn't.
Yeah, that could be a possibility. Another one could be that a few Muman or one Muman settler tricked a monster that was very humanoid looking into revealing the magic and the wand, and then basically taking it for them, and then I don't know, maybe a long plot for revenge where the monster that was betrayed got itself into got its bloodline to the royal family, and Starr is its byproduct.
That would be quite a twist. It definitely lean into the whole conflict between humans and monsters. Maybe there's definitely an underlying hint that Starr is going to be the one that bridges the tension between the two.
Yeah, if due to her hesitance in Mutapendence Day to blast Buff Frog.
Heck, even in the finale, it looked like those two were starting to get along and that they might have found some kind of common ground or better understanding. Not intensively, but enough to the point where they're willing to work together.
Yeah, especially considering out of every single one in the castle, she told him to run, while we could probably assume every other henchman is more than likely dead.
Yeah,
Except for Ludo, hopefully Toffee, and I don't know, maybe some of the main henchmen will probably be alive somehow.
yeah, they probably got out somehow. Definitely a good explanation. I think you brought this up in a previous live stream that Toppy maybe saves his finger to completely regenerate from it if something he was probably expecting he was probably expecting the wand to explode and his extra finger was his contingency plan.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at the fact that since we've seen him, he's never taken off or changed outfit. But then at this one moment when he knows that Star's going to come in blasting, and then he's eventually going to convince her to destroy the wand, he takes off his suit. Why? And then considering just before up, he exclaims to the henchman, "Gentlemen, it's been an honor working with you," which is something that ship captains usually say just before the ship goes down. So he more than likely knew the wand was going to explode and kill them all.
Toppy's definitely going to show back up.
He's too good of a villain to just die like that.
Oh yeah. I just wonder if he's going to regenerate nearby and be the first to find that wand shard that was left over at the very end of the finale. It's kind of an ambiguous notice to who's going to find that first.
Well, considering
Toppy,
his
go ahead. Sorry.
considering his suit is intact right where it is, and if the theory that his missing finger is inside of his suit and he regenerates from that, more than likely he would get the missing piece.
I wonder what he's going to do with that. Or, hmm. It's either he definitely has a much bigger plan, but whether or not he expected the wand to get repaired and factored that in, that's another question entirely.
I think that probably plays into the if monsters had the wand originally kind of thing. So then Toffee could probably have done research from that. And considering his disdain for Mewdependence Day, or as they call it, the Monster Massacre, he could possibly have known that the shard would have, or the wand would have cleaved. He takes half of its power, makes a new wand, and then uses that to pretty much get revenge on the Mumans for Mewdependence Day.
I'll bet that's going to crop up somewhere in season two, if not be the opening episode.
Nah, that would just be way too much and not really completely built up for a season opener.
Yeah, it's going to be a few episodes before they actually work up to something like that.
Seems a bit more like a mid-season or a season finale kind of thing.
Yeah, there's quite a few other plot threads to pick up on and explore too. Like there was the mysterious Mariner's voice in Blood Moon Ball that called out to Marco. There's mysterious symbols on the floor in St. Olga's Academy. There's the implication that the head mistress may be part of the royal family. She's definitely going to be another villain that pops up, or rather returns.
Right, considering she knows where the upstart princess comes from, which is Earth. She just probably will be surprised when she finds out it's Marco.
I'm kind of
Great.
wondering what.
I was just I was just thinking like that kind of moment would be that like that scene from Mulan where uh, the Hun is like, "You took my victory from me," and then Mulan reveals like, "No, I did." It's like the soldier from the peak. Imagine Miss Heinous, Starr, and Marco in that type of scene.
The biggest question I have about so her name's Miss Heinous. I can't believe I did that. Well, in regards to
I had to
her.
look it up.
Oh, okay. Well,
It was on the wiki.
okay. Thank you. In regards to Miss Heinous, what exactly led to her bottling up her whatever the clubber suit means? What led to her making such an active effort to suppress or cover this up?
Well, and symbol wise, the club represents fall, winter, night, darkness, fire, energy, will, wealth, work, luck, and happiness. So, if anything, they'll probably pull it from the darkness and stuff. Or it's probably an upbringing thing.
Hmm.
Like maybe she's related to Star in a sense of not like Moon's parents. One of them had an illegitimate child, which resulted in heinous. And but I doubt they'll go down that route.
Yeah, that'd be a bit much.
I don't know. They could try and make a Spaceballs reference. I am your father's brother's cousin's second aunt twice removed.
Hey, they might. They've definitely gotten away with a couple of rather ballsy things. The more obvious one with the comment about Chantal's booty, and then there's a reference to pot cookies in one of the episodes.
Oh, and the Diaz parents underneath the bed sheet looking at old medical drawings of Raphael.
Oh yeah, they could probably get away with that. They could probably sneak in a plot thread about an illegitimate child. That's not beyond the realm of possibility if they got away with sneaking references like that in.
It's all in the writing.
I guess what makes Miss Heinous even more interesting is that if she has this marking, and if the wand has this effect on this particular part of human royalty, that they could either be monster human hybrids, or if they're going to be a wand wielder, Mewberty and such is an effect of using the wand. It kind of brings up an interesting idea or interesting approach towards the idea. In other words, there might have been some horrifying experience or something that led to her making such an active effort to cover this up. There's something about the clubs on her cheeks that she's embarrassed of, that she's upset about, that she finds unwieldy, or something that eventually led to her founding. or even supporting the setup for St. Olga's.
Well, Miss Haynes's reaction to the club's appearing and her trying to reprogram herself, and the whole reform thing kind of shows signs of uh, abuse in her past, possibly to suppress things like the drain your individuality and all that. So, and then with the suit, it's possible that the suits appear for people who are able to wield the wand, but because Moon got the wand, it's more than likely that Miss Haynes was probably shoved to the side. Although this is to assume if Miss Haynes is related to Moon and Starr, like if they're cousins or sisters or something along that line, then Miss Haynes could possibly have been like once Moon got it, then it's like, oh, you should be ashamed of it, like of the suits. Just be ashamed of it. You're not going to be any good. Just repress who you are.
Hmm. So in that case, she may very well hold a bit of a grudge against Moon, or yeah, we need some more backstory here. If these two were sisters or related in some way, and Miss Haynes getting or this having enough of an effect on Miss Haynes to the point where she makes it her goal to have every princess fit into this very particular mold. Definitely could use some backstory here and definitely build onto her motivation and background as a villain.
Yeah, backstory is well, like with some characters, backstory would be a really great thing to get. Like with Miss Haynes would be a good one. Toffee, I'm fine with him being kind of ambiguous. I just want to know his allegiances, and then maybe Moon and River's backstory. That might be interesting.
That would be pretty interesting. It's definitely been implied that Starr takes more after River in personality. So I highly doubt Moon doesn't suspect that those two get up to rabble rousing or something every so often. She married the guy. She knows he has a wild streak and that Starr takes after him. She knows what shenanigans they've been up to. She probably just lets it slide.
As long as it doesn't destroy the kingdom.
Yeah. I'm kind of wondering why they specifically picked out Earth as where Starr would end up.
Well, they did state that Earth has no magic. So if anything, they wouldn't have Earth doesn't have things like dimensional scissors as an easily obtainable item, which would prevent Starr from leaving. It would also make it seem a bit more less likely as a target for evil forces because it's like Earth, that place doesn't have magic. Why would she go there?
Very true. There's one thing I'm kind of wondering if it could kind of connect here, though. Where did the old mariner's voice come from in Blood Moon Ball? I've kind of been playing or toying with the idea that previous wand wielders might have met or recruited other people from Earth. Okay, yeah, really wild off the handle idea there.
Well, not so much. I mean, looking at the symbols in St. Olga's school and going through most of my books for symbols, I'm seeing a lot of uh, Earth symbolism, but we'll get there when we get there.
All right.
Right. So it might be possible that Earth itself might have had some hand, in a sense, in the development of magic on other planets or dimensions.
Maybe. Actually, I'd kind of like to move into a discussion about the symbols. So, kind of touched on what club was. What's the significance for diamond or heart?
The symbolism of diamond represents warmth, light, or the power of light. Or no, wait, that's heart. Okay. Diamond, femininity, and when using it for tarot readings, represents earthly matters, money, courage, energy, and if you're using it for fortune telling, it represents spitefulness and annoyance. Heart represents the spring and summer, the power of light, the center of life. In tarot readings, represents knowledge, love, life from water, fertility, which could possibly be referenced by the fact that Starr keeps creating life through her magic, and they all love her like a child loving a mother. And in fortune telling, hearts represents joy.
Considering how different the symbolism between diamond and heart are, that may also fall into the whole Mewberty thing. Star's Mewberty involved lots of hearts sprinkling everywhere, her determination to locate and trap boys. That may be exclusive to heart. You did mention that fertility was one of those, so there's probably a higher emphasis on that kind of thing. It may have been an entirely different experience for Moon because she has diamonds on her cheeks and because of the symbolism associated there.
Right. Of course, my whole belief with the Mewberty episode, if Marco had just found a girl and told her to lock Starr in the girls' locker room, the episode probably could have went totally different. Although, considering Starr's initial reaction to Chantel's booty, probably not that different.
Yeah, the episode probably would have played out much differently under that set of circumstances.
All right, so then I've been looking for spade symbolisms and haven't really been finding a whole bunch, but I have been able to find that the spade symbol itself represents the leaf of the cosmic tree or life. Uh, it falls under fall and winter, the power of darkness. In tarot readings, it represents intellect, action, death, and it can also represent fighting, destiny, logical thinking, and death, and is also a sign for swords.
A few of those line up pretty well with Toffee.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I saw the research, or when I was doing that said research. Uh, although, with any hope, the spade might actually be the person that Toffee could possibly be working for, if Toffee is working for someone.
Hmm. Yeah, it's probably likely that he may be working for someone. The other the other symbols or the other suit, Moon, Starr, and Miss Heinous, they're all Muman. Or they all appear to be Muman anyway.
Right. Although an idea that just popped in my head is that Toffee could be one part of a group dedicated with the symbol of the spade, and they all are looking for the wand to destroy it.
Hmm.
So in which case, Toffee would just be one part of a larger organization.
That may be highly possible, considering what exactly played out in Independence Day. He couldn't be the only one that had something out against Mumans or wanted to start up a rebellion against them. There may even be at least a couple of Mumans that are sympathetic to the monsters.
Although considering Muman psychology, I would hate to see how they deal with monster sympathizers.
Yeah, true that. That may actually play into why they need to stay in the shadows or stay fairly covert.
I'm going to look up real quick when season 2 is supposed to come up.
Okie dokie.
It's kind of been bugging me. We haven't gotten a trailer yet. All right, Google, don't fail me now. Oh, okay. It's, if I can trust a wiki dedicated to Star vs. the Forces of Evil, then, which strangely in its logo has the font for Jim and the holograms. That's besides the point. The second season. Oh, no, wait. Oh, it's supposed to premiere in the late spring, early summer of 2016.
So could pretty much be any time coming up here, well around March through August.
Oh, and Shank X in the comments. Yeah, he was right. Toffee is voiced by Dexter from the show Dexter. I took the opportunity and looked it up.
Nice.
Quick with the multitasking.
Speaking of symbols, there were also those symbols on the floor in St. Olga's. I believe there was a sun, a moon, and I know there was at least one other symbol on the floor.
There were I redrew it so that way I can write on the symbols. Uh, Pretty much from what I can see, there was the large moon, which at the angle we're seeing it is a waning moon, which can represent letting go or decline. And in the center of that moon is the sun with an eye in it, which could possibly reference the Eye of Horus, which that in itself references protection, royal power, and good health. And then you've got the star, which we got the star, but right across from the star, we've got a symbol that could possibly be a reference to Cancer, which represents a change in direction. So maybe Star's sympathy towards Buff Frog and the monsters from Independence Day possibly could change the direction of Muny in the kingdom and how it treats monsters itself.
I could definitely see that. The way the room was set up, it almost seems like this was predetermined or it might be part of a bigger prophecy of some sort.
Right, and considering the fresco on the ceiling of a whole bunch of demons, but there's a skylight, which at that point in the day has the moon coming out, which could possibly be a reference to one of the Greek moon goddesses, Hecate, which is known for witchcraft, magic, and summoning of demons.
I've seen some speculation floating around connecting the waning moon or even the demons in the fresco with Tom. So he's definitely going to come back into the picture at some point.
Yeah, I doubt they'd allow Tom to just be a one episode character. They more than likely will, if Starr and Marco, or if Starr and anyone start dating, then more than likely Tom will be brought in.
What if he's brought in for a reason other than just Star's romantic prospects? Kind of curious to know more about the underworld, considering how big a role the demons played in the fresco. It almost seems like there's some kind of hint that there might be some kind of domination attempt or some sort of political tension. It's hinting at something.
Unless, of course, on Muny, demons and monsters are pretty much within the same wheelhouse, in which case they probably got the same treatment uh, as the monsters itself and were banished.
That would actually make a lot of sense. There was kind of an underlying hint that one of the big reasons Starr was drawn to Tom was because he was quote unquote forbidden fruit, sort of controversial in some respect. If demons are in the same wheelhouse as monsters, then Tom is definitely going to show back up. And perhaps even for a reason that isn't exclusive to trying to win Starr back. There might be a scene where he talks with Buff Frog or maybe even Toffee, who knows?
Yeah, although I kind of want to know how long Starr and Tom actually dated, because Starr's like, what, 14? So if anything, they couldn't have dated for that long.
Their
Yeah,
breakup may not
Tom.
even. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just stating that Tom just seems like that one guy that just can't let things go.
Tom mentioned that he'd been anger free for at least 100 plus days. Their
53.
breakup may have been. Oh, 53. Okay. So their breakup could have been fairly recent, maybe only a year ago at the most.
Right, and considering Starr and her reluctance to either both talk to Tom and just have Tom around in general, could still be a fresh thing.
Another thing about Tom, one of the things that really stood out about Blood Moon Ball was how upset one of the partygoers became when he approached Starr, just how much they had to tone down their festival just because Tom was trying to make a good impression for her.
Yeah, course, that was more than likely Tom trying to prove that he's changed and he can be like, well, I don't know. Maybe the reason why Starr was attracted to Tom in the first place was because of the violent tendencies and or basically the demonicness of the underworld, and because of the breakup, Tom could probably see, oh well, she's probably interested in high royal society, so I'll try to emulate that.
There's probably a lot more that could be added on if a bit more was explored about either monster culture, underworld culture. There is still quite a bit there to explore for either one.
Yeah, and we haven't really, like I said, there really wasn't that much lore heavy episodes in season one. Most of the first season was Starr and Marco getting into some wacky shenanigans, and which that's okay. I mean, I'm not. Seasons ones really shouldn't be that lore heavy unless it's supposed to be, but with a show like Star Versus, uh, it works. It just I have all these questions and I need answers. Give me answers now.
Definitely agreed on that. I am really itching to know what the whole dealio with the floral panels are, if there's going to be follow up or expansion onto what's going to happen with Miss Heinous. Just, I'm especially curious as to what led Toppy to be the scheming source that he is. Of course, he'd be interesting just as an eerie, ambiguous figure. I definitely agree on that.
Yeah, and then one of the problems with the St. Olga symbol is the fact that the top and the bottom half are cut off. Like a quarter of it are cut off on both sides, and a lot of the side panelings are blank. So if we were to get like a full view of the circle, there'd probably be a lot more to work with. It's like the Bill Cipher circle. We saw all the symbols, so we were able to figure out, like, well, not really figure out because we don't know all who represents all the symbols, but we were able to get a general gist of it. But with the St. Olga's one, not that much.
Very true. Heck, if there were more added onto the circle, there may very well be the suited clubs at the at 4 different points on the circle. That would
Yeah, cause
reveal quite a bit if that were the case.
yeah, because looking at the symbols, there's like three different symbols representing the sun in the center, next to Cancer, and then a little bit to diagonal from the moon, where it has that circle with the X, which represents the Egyptian hieroglyph for soul. So I'm just wanting to know the full symbol for that.
If that represents soul, that may very well tie into the whole ritual ceremony thing that happened in Blood Moon Ball with Star and Marco. It might play into. I've seen a few fans tossing around the theory that Star and Marco didn't meet by sheer chance, that it was destiny that brought them together.
Yeah, that's probable. The sense that Marco's the safe kid, so that's why the principal gave him the duty of showing her around, and Star found his house because she thought all humans had the last name Diaz. Wait a minute, Destiny. That's in. It's in my notes. Oh, yeah, destiny. It's underneath the spade, along with fighting and logical thinking. So, which kind of describes Marco in a sense, because he's a good fighter. If they did meet if they were destined to meet, and Marco thinks more logically than Starr, then the symbol also represents death.
The symbols and setup on the floor may very well have been hinting at a bigger prophecy or something like that.
Either that or it's just a whole bunch of symbols that they thought looked cool. It'll probably be retconned if they showed it again.
That would. I would not put it past the show to do that.
Yeah, especially if they were to dig a bit deeper in the lore for season 2.
Any other big points here that you want to touch on or discuss or elaborate on?
Um, trying to think of one. Well, the dimensional scissors themselves are kind of weird. Because, like, we've been shown every other dimension has them other than Earth. So then, where did they originally come from? Were they. Not only that, but if you look at each portal that's created, it seems to be reflective towards either the location that it's sending them to, or it's the person that's wielding it. Because, like, Ludo's portals are more green and dark, while Starr's are more light and blue.
It's been shown that it's royalty that usually gets the dimensional scissors too. The other princesses each had their own pair of dimensional scissors.
So then would that make them scarce items? Hmm.
I guess, if anything, that brings up a question about the world itself, Muny and all the other kingdoms around it. They're definitely not all in the same dimension. There's different. There seems to be a set of royalty in charge of each respective dimension, as in Pixtopia, Pixies, and probably all the other princesses that were sent to St. Olga's. There's some place where the dimensions intersect, and even a high possibility that the royals may have a conference and convene with each other for one reason or another. There may even be a chance that they trade with each other or have some sort of setup or commerce. There definitely seems to be a few neutral zones where people can go to pick up things, like the supermarket Starr went to, if I remember that correctly.
Supermarket. What episode was that?
Oh, they went to go get new batteries for her wand.
Oh yeah, the quest buy place. That's right. I was thinking of what was it? I was thinking of that scene whenever the Diazes are in Muny, and Starr takes them to an uh, open air grocery kind of thing,
Oh yeah,
which
the royalty from each dimension definitely know each other. There's definitely some crossover. Maybe the dimensional scissors aren't necessarily exclusive to royals. I get the impression that they are because the princesses each had their own pair in St. Olga's. It may just be, yeah, there's kind of an ambiguous note here. And there's no clarification as to whether or not Ludo himself is royal or how he got his pair of scissors. There's
right,
definitely a
and Ludo,
backstory there.
right, yeah, and Ludo's henchmen seem to also have scissors. I've at least seen Buffrog with a pair.
Hmm. Maybe these are just standard to all the dimensions and everybody has their own pair somewhere. That definitely brings into question, why is Earth one of the dimensions that isn't connected here? Obviously, Mun or Mumans and otherwise can go to Earth, but Earthlings can't go to other dimensions unless they're with somebody who has a pair of scissors.
Yeah, that seems to be a very common aspect of a lot of shows involving magic, or just stories in general involving magic, not just necessarily shows. Uh, it's possible that Earth might have been a neutral zone in a way for testing magic or being in an area, considering we on Earth have legends and history and a whole bunch of myths involving creatures such as the Sphinx from like the Quest by episode, or pixies, and then a whole bunch of other creatures. So it's possible that Earth might have been like a hub for all these creatures, but then at some point it could possibly have been like, yeah, Earth's not safe, don't go there. No one goes there.
Hmm. If it were a hub for people to try magic, and definitely add into the idea that it'd be the first place that Star's parents thought of to send her to practice.
Either that or they thought Earth is a lesser place in a sense of, oh, well, she's going to be destructive. Well, send her to Earth. No one really cares. Who cares about that planet?
That's definitely another possibility. Definitely curious as to what humans and monsters and pixies and all these other creatures and such, what their opinion of Earth is. That that'd be pretty interesting to know in general. It's not really something that gets touched on.
Yeah, because all the monsters we've seen are henchmen of Ludo, and they're interested in only in getting the wand. So if we were to see other monsters in on Earth, just in general, then we might get more of a picture of how monsters view, or it could be because of Starr and her traveling to Earth and other dimensions. I guess monsters could probably go, or other creatures from dimensions could probably go, oh, the ban on Earth is gone. All right, well let's go to Earth.
That'd be interesting. If somebody dropped references to there being a ban, that definitely clear up why there haven't been any other visitors to Earth beyond Star that we know of. I guess technically you could also say Ponyhead visited Earth.
Right, mostly to visit Starr for a last night of fun before St. O's.
Yeah, she didn't really express much of an opinion towards Earth itself or even any desire to go exploring there. Maybe maybe Star's generation of princesses are preteens and such. Maybe they don't know that there's a ban on Earth or any of the history in regards to that.
Hmm. Although if Ponyhead's distaste for Marco was not only out of jealousy for Starr and Marco's friendship, but also of an opinion on Earth itself, that could be something interesting.
That would definitely give a bigger picture as to where Earth fell in the middle of all this madness. It definitely lend more to the idea that Star's parents centered Earth because of how lowly they think of it. It definitely contribute more to that idea.
Hmm. Well, now I'm looking towards Norse mythology and like the world tree Yggdrasil, or it's been a while since I played Tales of Symphonia, so I can't really remember how to pronounce it all that well. But it has the 9 different realms, and in this, pretty much in the center is Midgar or Earth. So maybe Earth at one point was similar to that. In which case, I'm gonna have to refresh my Norse mythology.
Hmm. May very well have to read up on that. It may very well cross over with the star setup in mythology. There was a Sphinx, so there's definitely references and inspiration taken from various types of mythology.
Yeah, and considering Ludo himself, like without the skull, he kind of looks like a kappa.
What's a kappa?
It's a Japanese monster. They're pretty much like these turtle creatures, but they got like a bowl on their head, and you could do one of two things with them. Either one, carve a name in a cucumber to get to basically ward them off from certain people, or you can trick them into dumping the water from the bowl on their head out, which causes them to lose power.
What if something like that happened with Ludo? It explained why he was so determined to take Star's wand.
And I'm thinking Ludo might just have a Napoleon complex.
Yeah, that seems a lot more likely.
Yeah, because in all of his fantasies of power, he's like this big, towering giant of a monster. I'm just kind of hoping season 2 we get a bit more personality with Ludo, other than "I want the wand, give me the wand." It's like, why, Ludo? Why do you want the wand?
I'll bet he's going to get some kind of characterization.
Hmm. Considering the flashback we saw of Ludo in the Star gives Marco a beard episode, Ludo seems to have been living in that castle since he was a kid, so Ludo being monster royalty could possibly be a plausible theory.
Huh.
And that could probably be why he wants the wand, to increase his power. And that could explain why the monster, his henchmen, follow him.
So, if he's monster royalty, then maybe he was kept under wraps or kept secret from humans. If if there weren't some sort of really tentative truce between the two. Like, he was kept in the shadows all his life. He was kind of a sheltered child. And then his minions are following him in the hopes that he'll be part of a resurgence of what was once a really great and mighty empire of monsters. Except, yeah, that's not the case because it's Ludo.
Yeah, he pretty much ruined things almost instantly. It's like, yes, it's the new age of monsters. 5 minutes later, the new age of monsters is over. How could this possibly have happened? Ludo was in charge. Okay.
Maybe since he's lost his castle and his minions, Ludo is going to go through a period of getting both humbled and having to ask somebody for help. He's definitely going to go through some kind of character arc. He's probably going to start out being the secondary villain or comedic relief for a while, though.
Yeah. Yeah, they might do something similar to Peridot in a sense of both characters still being their usual self, but then eventually changing over time.
I would love to see that happen with Ludo. Not necessarily turn over a new leaf, but just become a bit more redeemable to see if he has the capacity to do something other than, I want Star's wand.
Something that would kind of be interesting if Ludo inadvertently, accidentally starts a monster revolution, and then it just kind of like Buggy the Clown in One Piece, how in Impelled Down to the prison, everyone that like saw Buggy, like all the other prisoners that saw Buggy, like Luffy was beating all the monsters, but they mainly saw Buggy, so they thought he was the one doing it. So Buggy got this massive following of pirates that thought he was the greatest pirate ever, even though it was actually Luffy, and Buggy himself ain't shit. Excuse the language, but
that's definitely possible. I could see a high likelihood of that. Maybe there's some point where Starr starts making progress with befriending the monsters. I kind of think there may be another point where Ludo touches base with Bullfrog again. And for some reason he's tagging along with Starr and Bullfrog as they're trying to talk to the monsters or make amends with them or something. And then this kind of stirs up or stokes the flames for said rebellion. And then Ludo happens to be there, and these two are doing stuff in the background while he's unintentionally the front man or who everybody sees. Perhaps even because he was monster royalty and monsters recognize him as the lost prince or something like that.
yeah. Although with the Ludo and Bullfrog, I just want to see how far they go with the Ludo gave me babies plot line.
Where did Ludo get all those tadpoles from? There's definitely a bit of a history between them too. He told that whole spiel about how he picked up Bullfrog off the streets. There may be
Gave
more
him
insight
pants.
into that. Yeah. Maybe
I gave you pants. Where are your pants?
maybe there's an unknown sympathetic side to Ludo. It's not incredibly obvious, but he did seem a little broken up over kicking Bullfrog out. Maybe that's part of how his minions started following him. Maybe he gave him a place off the streets or something.
Actually, that probably plays a bit into this question that Shanks X asked, like, where's the rest of Ludo's family? It's possible, if Ludo is royalty, then maybe he became disposed when the rest of his family was probably killed by the current Muny royalty, and then Ludo himself building his kingdom back up with picking the monsters literally off the street, like with Buff Frog and Three-Eyed Potato Baby and Beard Deer and all those other monsters, and then eventually got the castle again, and was like, well, I don't want to go like my parents, so I need power. How do I get power? Well, the most powerful object on Muny is that wand. All right, let's get that wand.
I could definitely see that. I think there is more to Ludo than what we've seen in season 1. There's been little hints at he does care for his minions. He's not exactly a competent ruler, and he doesn't have a big picture type of mentality. But I think some part of him cares. Peridot is actually a fairly accurate analogy in that kind of respect. Maybe he needs to go through an arc where he learns how to be more empathetic or understanding of others.
Yeah, Ludo just seems like that boss that wants to be your friend, but still is your boss. So he can't 100% be your friend. I think one of the differences between Ludo and Peridot, in a sense, is the fact that Peridot knows her place, while Ludo thinks he's above everyone.
Oh yeah, he has quite an ego on him.
Although I'm kind of wondering about like monster healing abilities, because like in the first episode or so, where after they beat up, like Starr beat up all the monsters, and at one point she's like, "Did I just kill that guy?" And Ludo's like, "No, he's just being a baby, probably internally bleeding, but he's just being a baby about it." I was like, "How is monster health insurance there on Muny?" Or are they like Wolverine in a sense of they self-heal quickly?
Toffee did have some pretty impressive regenerating abilities. Maybe they're all fairly resilient in that kind of respect.
Monsters tend to be. Although with Toffee, he seems to be more lizard-like, and as most people know, some lizards do have regenerative abilities. Although that's mostly on the tail, but magic.
Maybe it's different for each monster. Some have more advanced regenerative or healing capabilities than others, but they're all fairly resilient to some degree. Heck, in Mutapendence, there was some pretty exaggerated propaganda stuff in there. But what if there's some grain of truth to how much the monsters had at their disposal or naturally in regards to claws and healing capabilities and such?
Right. And from the pop-up book, it looked like there were some pretty big monsters. So for the Mumans to just up and defeat all of the monsters for their land, magic, and corn just doesn't really seem all that uh, possible for them to just quickly kill the monsters and be done with it. So for them to be incredibly resilient is a possibility, yeah.
Another thing I'm kind of curious about in regards to world building is what kind of political climate they have going on. It's kind of hinted at that there's still tension between humans and monsters, but there isn't a war going on. It seems like there's a tentative peacetime. But then again, that hasn't exactly been expanded upon. I'm kind of a shot in the dark. Oh,
Yeah,
wait, there
because
was the all-seeing eye thing. Yeah, there's still major tension going on between humans and monsters.
oh yeah, that thing. Yeah, plus most of the episodes deal with Starr on Earth, So, and whenever we do see Muny, it's mostly Starr, the royal family, or Starr keeping away to be from being detected from the royal family. And more than likely, if there was a war, the family wouldn't tell Starr, in a sense, like, keep her. Don't worry her about it. Just try and keep her as innocent as we can. Shelter her in a bit. Although Starr having a prolific, trying to find the word, Starr having a tendency, I guess would be a better word, to fight monsters would kind of rile up any monster Muman treaty, if anything.
If there is a war going on between humans and monsters, and Ludo is the displaced prince, that kind of implies that there's definitely another group or somebody leading the rest of the monsters. There's
Which
another faction
possibly could
involved.
be Toffee, right? Like Toffee and his group, if he is part of a group.
Okay, one of the big things for season 2 on my hopes and expectations list, show us who the Spades is and if Toffee's involved with the bigger group.
Yeah, true. I also want more development for some of the human characters, like Jana and Jackie Lynn Thomas.
Won't argue there, since Jackie's been getting more screen time. Yeah, definitely want to know about her. And since Jana was feeding Glossrig pudding and shows an interest in magic, they're building up to something there.
Yeah, and considering the fact that Jackie Lynn Thomas seems to be on good terms with Marco, could possibly be hinting in season 2 that maybe they'll be like, maybe they both have a crush on each other, but they're just two awkward teenagers that don't really want to say anything. And
That's
then
very
30 years,
possible.
and then 30 years later at the high school reunion, they see each other and it's like, I had a crush on you back in high school. Why didn't you say anything?
That'd totally be Marco. Honestly, I'm
Yeah.
not really looking forward to any more development on the romance front for this show. Just after Blood
Well,
Moon Ball, just I'm just hoping it doesn't take center stage, is what I'm trying to say there.
yeah, I prefer romance and shows to be more naturally developed instead of forced.
I'll say this much: they haven't been hammering it in too far, and if they are building up to something with Marco and Jackie, it hasn't been too in your face. It's just starting to go somewhere. So
Right, yeah, because I guess one of the better examples of romance and shows I can think of is Stephen and Connie, because that has taken multiple episodes throughout the entirety of the series to develop that. So in Star Wars: The Forces of Evil, hopefully they do the same thing.
yeah, it's probably going to take a while before they develop any kind of definitive couple because there's been more hints dropped than real development on that front.
Yeah, and considering the demon in the Blood Moon Ball episode said that the light binds the souls in Brodom, which is a more of a modern word for friendship, could possibly uh, could possibly mean something along the lines of Starr and Marco not having romantic development in the future, but more of a friendship in a sense of being very, very close.
Yeah, I'll bet that's the route they're headed.
And honestly, that's kind of what I prefer.
Honestly, I agree with that. Even though I made a great big. Honestly, I'm in the camp that wouldn't mind it too much, sees it as a possibility, but I'd be perfectly okay with that not happening on the show.
Yeah, because I got way too many ships to deal with. I'm not wanting to focus any of my time on Starco at the moment.
There's a lot more interesting things to discuss in regards to the show besides shippings anyway. There's a possibility of Janna learning magic. There's a possibility of Ludo being a displaced prince. Where the symbols are headed. There's a huge gamut of discussion topics besides Marco making starry eyes or Starr vice versa.
Yeah, and yet, shipping is where the fans mostly focus.
Yep. Yep. I'm a guilty party, so I really can't say much. I try to keep things diversified though, because there's a lot to look at with any given show beyond.
Hmm. I'm going to add on to that season 2 wish list. For me, would be the Princess Handbook for the Wand. If Star asks for help and Glossaric explains a past princess or a past wand wielder, and we get to see more of that backstory in a sense of like what past wand wielders were like, what the climate of the world of Muny was like at the time. So just give me more backstory, show.
Very much
I'm a
agreed
lore.
on that.
When it comes to magic and all that stuff, I'm a lore master. Just give me more lore to deal with.
In regards to other wand masters, I'm curious to know if they might have had a sidekick or party like Marco helping them out. That'd be where the Mariner could come in. Well, a figure like that anyway.
Right.
Also,
I was
also,
agreeing. Continue.
also really curious as to Star definitely has a very distinctive and unique style as to how she uses her magic. How would other wand wielders go about it? See, it works similarly to what the Green Lantern ring does. In other words, just about anything you can imagine. Fair play.
True. Well, I mean that's true with all the rings of power, but and considering Glossaric himself seems to talk fondly of Star, but then again, that's probably like to be young again, or I'm dealing with a young wand wielder again. This will be very fun.
Probably a slightly different experience every time. Heck, wasn't it implied that wand wielders add a new spell or add something new to the book every so often?
Yeah, Star mentioned that every time one of the wand wielders masters a spell, they write in detail what it's about in the book, which, looking at all the pages in the book, I cannot decipher most of anything in that.
Maybe Mumans have an incredibly different alphabet or a set of symbols that they use for conveying ideas.
Humans seem to be writing in the same alphabet as Equestria, and that's an ungarbled mess of blocks and near inches. Well, I don't know. I mean, there are some. alchemist symbols and some Viking-like Viking-like looks towards their lettering, and then some of the symbols itself seem to be very symbol heavy. Like I saw a couple of hand of provinces, although I'm still trying to narrow down which region it's from.
Hmm. So there's definitely credibility to looking into and studying Norse mythology and possibly cross-referencing certain things on the show with particular Norse myths. That kind of lends to it.
Yeah, that would be a good place to start, considering all the different. Because mythology is one of those topics that I'm really good at, and I have been for a very long time, ever since elementary school. So, um, yeah, that's a good place for me to shine. But with Norse mythology, all the other mythologies around the world, Norse is pretty much one of the only ones that have multiple different realms and dimensions with different creatures and mythology behind each and every single one. Every single other myth around the world, it mostly constrains itself to Earth, the underworld, and the and a heaven-like type of dimension.
Star Versus definitely borrows the multiple worlds and dimensions aspect of Norse mythology.
Yeah, just waiting to see how far they go, like uh, how many other mythologies they also use. That actually could play into the whole ban on Earth. Like, what if all the other dimensions went to Earth as well, and then that's where humans got their myths, monsters, and gods. But then eventually, as certain religions, certain human religions started to play up and started to be more anti-paganism, and they started being more violent. Maybe that's when those creatures from the other dimensions went away, and then put that ban on Earth until things cooled down.
That's very likely. Definitely be a solid explanation as to why there are Earthlings running around with dimensional scissors, or why it was such a shock for Star to come into the Earth dimension.
Yeah, although with shows like this, with their lore and stuff, I'm always trying to find the connection between the show's lore and uh, real life mythology.
Sorry about all the sniffing. I think I have a cold.
Yeah, that's fine.
Gonna have to take a closer look at Star's spell book and at some of the symbols and such in there. Kind of interested to start digging more into that.
Yeah, every time it showed itself, like I had to pause multiple times, but there's not a whole lot that's very legible. Mostly just triangles, squares, lines. Although there is English in there for some reason. Like on one page, it had a spell which apparently did something about like a summoning spell, but then there's a little post it note with a picture of a fox and it says, change this symbol to this if you want to summon cute foxes.
Huh. Maybe other symbols are references correlating specifically with magic or certain types of spells.
And considering Starr herself said that it was written in an ancient Munian language.
In that case, what if this ancient Munian language could be roughly equivalent to Latin and it's used specifically for indexing magic, or is carried over for indexing or writing about magic?
Which would make sense since the hand repair spell did kind of have a Latin-y feel. Although the spells that Starr uses, mostly she's just stringing words together.
Pretty much.
It's like sparkle narwhal syrup blast. Just whatever. I don't know. Maybe they're playing a game of like Mad Libs or Boggle.
Probably. If that's the case, though, if someone can cast magic on the fly with the wand, or it's just kind of random, I guess if anything, I guess I'm kind of wondering if there's indexes and setup for magic beyond the wand. What if it's possible to use magic outside of using a wand?
Well, the open air store from the Diaz family vacation episode, there were some potion brewers and vendors selling certain items that could possibly be used in a magic spell. So it could be that magic is possible to be used without the wand. It's just with the wand, it's kind of like easier in a way.
Easier and possibly even more powerful.
Or unless, of course, it's the gem itself is what makes it. Since the gem itself was the one that got cleaved, and it could be that the gem is the power source and the wand itself is just a vessel.
Huh.
And that could possibly be why it changes form from wielder to wielder. Is that the gem senses the intent of the wielder and changes form to accommodate to that.
That definitely adds to the question, who made the wand in the first place? That definitely adds. It's there.
Yeah, that's why a backstory episode for the wand magic and the Muman monster war would be a very, uh, very good choice for season 2.
That it would.
Like maybe because of Mew Dependence Day, Star becomes more interested in the war between monsters and humans, or humans, and starts to look more into what actually happened.
That definitely give a lot of insight to the differences between culture, maybe what led to Toppy starting up or joining a rebellion. definitely give insight to quite a few different things there.
Oh, yeah, Shank X in the comments is asking if you think Marco's arm might come back.
Oh yeah, that the arm is making a return. There's definitely an open window of opportunity for that.
Yeah, because we saw a flash of that in the season 1 finale. Maybe Marco's arm will be like Finn's arm in the Adventure Time prophecies, except this time it'll actually stick.
I don't know if it would stick or not. It'd be pretty. Actually, there's a high likelihood that it did because after Miss Skullneck got turned into a troll, she's still a troll.
Which I really like that. I like I like Miss Skullneck. She's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, she's a grump, but the fact that she now knows that she's gonna live for a very long time and that she's practically a teenager again, I think that will really add some dimension to her character if they explore that even more.
I hope they explore it more. I absolutely love that episode. Miss Skolnick was the best part. I didn't expect them to pick up and add any more to her character, but there she definitely had more added to her character and stepped up a bit.
Plus, I just love the fact that the entirety of the school is perfectly fine with Miss Skolnick being a troll. Or like the football game episode, it's like, Skullsy, what's your favorite weapon? I prefer battle axe. Got it. In fact, she had that answer right off the top of her head ready.
Yeah. I find it interesting how readily and easily Star's classmates accepted the existence of magic and her being a princess from another dimension.
I guess it could probably be because, like, we've all seen those type of stories where the character has to hide what they actually are, but then everyone eventually accepts them anyway. I think they're probably just cutting out the middleman. And besides, they're in high school. I mean, how cool would it have been to know someone who can actually perform real magic? I mean, it makes sense that Starr became really, really popular because of that.
Lorna won't argue that. Shank just asked another really interesting question about Marco's arm. Do you think it will be like a symbiote in Spider Man? As in, the more he uses it, the more he will change, like in the first episode.
Well, considering my limited knowledge of Spider-Man and his mythology, which is mainly restricted to the TV shows, since I don't even like I know of the backstory and stuff, I just don't actually have any of the comics. But the best example I can think of, if it was to go down that route, was the Black Suit Spider-Man arc in the Spectacular Spider-Man TV series,
Oh
where at
yeah,
first the
Venom.
chain, yeah, like because when Peter first got the suit in the Spectacular Spider-Man show, at first like he didn't notice anything, but then he started substituting I for we, and then he started to become more aggressive, and it just then eventually, after getting snapped back out of his funk, he started to realize, like, when have I started saying we instead of I? And he started realizing that the suit itself was evil. But with Marco and his arm, more than likely it'll probably play out like. Actually, that would be a pretty interesting episode for Toffee, in a sense of if Toffee gets the cleaved half of the gem and then creates a new wand, he could possibly, considering his studying of Starr and her magic, could probably have found out about Marco and his arm, and then use his evil magic to bring that back, but more powerful.
That definitely posed quite a. What if the arm returns more powerful than before, despite Starr healing it or suppressing it? And Toppy blackmails Marco, saying, I'll heal your arm in exchange for X, Y, or Z. And Toppy is more capable or knowledgeable with the wand or with its magic than what Starr is. What if it were a case like that?
I was thinking more along the lines of the tentacle itself.
Sorry.
That's okay. I was thinking more along the lines of the tentacle, like the monster itself, engulfing Marco to like he's still there inside, but all you can see is the monster.
Oh.
Which, talking about the monster arm, kind of reminded me of that. Like earlier, we mentioned all the dirty jokes they snuck in, like the monster arm episode. The some of Marco's female classmates mentioned they want the tentacle to be its boyfriend. And I'm just thinking, did they just seriously sneak in a tentacle hentai reference?
They did.
In which case, if the tentacle, like the monster arm, comes back and engulfs Marco, would it look like Zontan's tentacle monster?
Oh, God. I doubt they get away with that. I doubt they could get away with that.
If they do, top props. Because, I mean, I'll probably be the only one around, like in my immediate circle, that would get that reference. But in all honesty, the internet would definitely know, like right off the top. Like, wait a minute, that's a reference to Zontan. Holy crap!
Can you imagine that being what made Can you imagine that being what made Starburst's popularity just skyrocket?
Well, it was Zontan that got me interested in seeing the pilot for the modifiers. It's like I saw Zontan's parody first, and then I was like, what is this a parody of? And I watched the modifiers pilot, and I'm like, oh, well, this is actually a very good pilot.
I'm glad I discovered that the opposite way around, as in, I saw the modifiers first because of a reference from Pan Pizza, and then I discovered that the other thing existed.
Oh, yeah, when I saw that from Pan Pizza, I'm like, wait a minute, did he just sneak in the zone parody?
He sneaks those into every one of his videos. He snuck one into his Johnny Test video. Okay, so Marco is Zone's tentacle monster. That needs to happen.
Great. Now I can just see a little comic involving Marco's arm, like coming back, and then Zone just being like, "Hey, what are you doing, you copycat, or just trying to claim copyright infringement?"
That'd be great.
Although if they were to sneak in like some student that looks like Zone in the background of the episode where Marco's monster arm comes back, that would be fantastic.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, it's something I would. It's a reference I would probably put in. But then again, I tend to put in obscure references to anything I do.
Nothing wrong with obscure references. Heck, it doesn't seem too far-fetched for that to pop up in regards to what they have snuck in there. It'd just be a matter of how long could they keep that up before Disney started sniffing around and told them, no. One of our internet savvy board members told us that this is not appropriate for a cartoon that children watch.
Well, I don't. Well, true. I mean, there was that whole S&P thing in Gravity Falls. Not S&P approved, has been approved by S&P.
Sorry, here, dogs.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just kind of surprised the cats around here have been quiet.
Maybe they're taking a nap or something?
No, I think they're in the other room.
Okay, any closing comments, or are we going to end on the idea of Marco's arm turning into a Zotan tentacle monster?
No, I think that's a great place to end.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining the two of us. Thank you for joining me this evening, SR.
No problem.
Have a good night, and pretty much it. And on an ending note, Marco Zotan's tentacle monster. Let that haunt your nightmares tonight.
Make it canon, Disney XD. Make it canon.
Yeah.